You know, in law, we spend a ton of time talking about the limits of our rights. But today, we're going to flip that script. We're diving into a really provocative idea from a law review article by Professor Drew Stevenson. He asks a wild question. What if you could just give up your Second Amendment right to own a gun? Voluntarily. Legally.
Professor Stevenson just comes right out and says it. This is the sentence his entire proposal is built on. And let's be clear, this isn't about some top-down government rule. It's all about individual choice, creating a legal way for people who want to formally declare themselves gunless.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting from a legal standpoint. Our Constitution is full of rights we can choose to set aside. We do it all the time. It's called waiver, right? You can waive your right to a jury trial, you can consent to a search, you can waive a lot of things. But then there's the Second Amendment, kind of standing all by itself over there. Right now, there's just no formal way to do it.
And that's the big puzzle Professor Stevenson's article tries to solve. In a legal system that's all about personal freedom and choice, why is this one specific right something you can't formally opt out of?
So that question leads him straight to his big idea. It's not just about deciding not to buy a gun. It's about creating an official, government-recognized system for people who want to say, I am gunless and that's a core part of who I am.
So here's the nuts and bolts of it. It's a completely voluntary registration system. You could sign a legal affidavit, basically an oath, saying you waive your Second Amendment rights for a fixed amount of time, say 5 years or 10 years. And in return, you get an official government certificate that makes it illegal for you to buy or own a gun during that time.
And this is a really crucial distinction he makes. This system wouldn't be for someone who just hasn't gotten around to buying a gun. It's designed for people who make a very conscious, deliberate choice. As he puts it, they're gunless by conviction, not just by accident.
Okay, so why? Why would we need a system like this? Professor Stevenson lays out 3 main reasons, and he argues it would be a pretty powerful tool, not just for individuals, but for society as a whole.
The first reason is all about social identity. Think about it. Social movements need symbols, right? They need a way for people to show they're part of the group. He argues this certificate could be exactly that, a real, tangible symbol of a personal commitment to nonviolence.
The article uses this fantastic analogy. It's like the phrase, I'm vegan. When someone says that, you know it's not just that they happen to be eating a salad. It signals a whole system of values and conscious choices. The idea is that saying, I'm gunless, with a certificate to back it up, could work in the exact same way.
And you know, this kind of thing has worked before. Think back to the temperance movement. People took a public pledge to be a teetotaler, to not drink alcohol. That was a huge deal. It created a really clear identity and a sense of community that fueled this massive social and political movement.
Second, there's a psychological reason. There's real power in formally declaring a moral commitment. It's kind of like when a conscientious objector officially declares their status. The act of registering would take a private choice and make it a public part of your identity. It just makes that commitment feel more real, more binding.
Okay, the third reason is all about economics. It's about creating what's called a market signal. Now that sounds complicated, but it just means creating reliable information that didn't exist before. A government list of people who have chosen to be gunless, that's a brand new piece of data. And the article argues that the private sector would definitely respond to it.
So who would care about this new information? Well, the clearest example is insurance companies. For the very first time, they'd have solid data on which households are gun-free. And if that data shows a lower risk of accidents or other claims, they could offer lower insurance premiums. For an insurer, this isn't about politics. It's just about math and risk.
So, we've talked about the why, but how would this thing actually work? How would you do it? Well, the proposal lays out a process that's actually surprisingly simple.
So here's how it would go. You'd go online, fill out a form and a sworn affidavit. Then, your name would get added to the federal background check system, and you'd get an official certificate in the mail. And that's it. From that moment on, for the term you picked, you'd be legally barred from buying or owning a gun.
The real teeth in this whole thing is the NICS system. That's the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. It's the database that every licensed gun dealer in the country has to check before they sell a firearm. So, by adding your own name, You're basically putting yourself on a national do not sell list. It creates a real legal barrier.
Okay, so let's zoom out. The author argues that this proposal isn't just about an individual choice. It's about creating a tool for potential cultural change. The big idea is to reduce some of the costs that come with so many guns in society, but to do it through purely voluntary actions.
So how would that work? Well, the logic is pretty straightforward. If this idea caught on and there were just fewer guns in private homes, there would be fewer guns available to be stolen. And theft is one of the main ways guns get onto the illegal market. A voluntary drop in the number of guns could also mean fewer accidents, and maybe fewer tragedies in moments of crisis.
And that point about stolen guns, that is not a small thing. The article cites data showing that up to 500,000 guns are stolen from legal owners in the U.S. every single year. That's a constant pipeline restocking the illegal market.
Which leaves us with the final, really big question at the heart of this whole thing. Can a whole bunch of individual, voluntary choices, when you add them all up, actually shift a major social norm? Professor Stevenson's article doesn't pretend to have the final answer, but it makes a powerful case that it's a possibility we should at least be thinking about, a way to maybe change a culture, one person's choice at a time.